we're going to do look at a fight that is Xande Riberio versus Dean Lister. In fact, what I'll do is I'll show you this. So this is a fight taken from Metamoris, one of the first couple of Metamorises. Really brief history. Metamoris was basically the first, let's call it like a modern sub-only tournament. It came up, I guess, about 9 years ago, and it burst onto the scene. It was sub-only. It was really exciting. The guy running it was really well connected. It was Halleck Gracie. So he was connected through the whole jiu-jitsu world, and he could basically get some of the best guys in the world to come and participate. And so he had some fantastic matches. It's a 20-minute long format, so we're not going to run the whole match because we will get heavily distracted and bored from just me talking to you about every minute detail of a match that's long, a match that long. But what we are going to do is have a look at two really specific sequences. So Xande Riberio is an all-time great. Dean Lister's nickname is the Boogeyman. He won ADCC, I think, by predominantly footlocking everyone, and was not the world's most popular human being because he was doing it before footlocks were the cool thing to do. So in this fight, they've previously fought in an ADCC. In this fight, they're going toe-to-toe again. Dean is basically known as a footlock master, to the point that he's actually wearing a rash guard in this that has him breaking a foot in half. So there's a number of things that Xande's doing, which is to avoid getting footlocked. One of them is you can see he's passing on his knees, and he's going to do that the entire time because he's really, really worried about letting Dean get underneath him and elevate him. And so what you can actually see in Dean's game is a lot of the modern reliance on half guard, butterfly guard, elevation, and entangling the leg, but it's not quite as well developed as the most up-to-date guys. But the thing I'm really interested in showing you is what Xande does. So he is going to, in these two sequences, he's going to go for an armbar without spoiling the surprise for you too much. He's going to go for an armbar in the two separate sequences, and he's going to set up a belly down armbar. So if you can kind of imagine, and we'll see the position in a second, but you can kind of imagine he is Dean's on all fours with one arm out, and Xande is all four limbs wrapped around the arm, sort of facing downwards in that sort of belly down armbar position, which will make sense in a couple of seconds. And what is interesting is the two times he goes for it, how the two situations play out. And it has an amazing end that you'll be very excited to see. So here's the first time. This is about 4.5 minutes into the match. So let's just start watching. So you can see here, Dean is working a half guard. Xande's working like a double underpass, trying to sort of stack past him there. You can see he's trying to turn the corner pretty hard, and Dean's doing a good job of framing and trying to defend. You can see he builds a frame here, and then once he's got the frame in place, you can see he drops out under the frame, and he's trying to wrap himself up onto this left leg of Xande here. And so you'll see him start to try and build his half guard in a second. Xande's trying to cross face him and flatten him out at this point. And I'm just going to let these dudes work for a couple of seconds. So you can see now Dean's reestablished his like a high knee shield. So you see this leg up here is framing, and he's got the underhook working to there. So he's built a frame across here, and he's really working to create space underneath Xande in order to try and get down and underneath him. So what's just happened here is you can see that Xande's wrapped this left arm under, and he's actually got a whizzer. So he's got an underhook now, an overhook, and he's just jacked Dean's arm right up nice and high. And he's done it just as Dean has been trying to get his half guard in. And I'm just going to roll back because that is a really, really nice little sequence. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Sorry. Slow motion replay. Okay, so what you can see is Dean has his half guard. You can see his half guard's in place here. And then unfortunately this clock down here is kind of obscuring our view. But you can see he lets go of this underhook with his right hand and tries to commit both hands to Xande's left leg. He's trying to get himself down and onto a single. As he does that, he has to get his legs out of the way so he can go deep onto the leg. So you can see that now both of his feet have let go of the half guard, and he's tried to wrap his hands around Xande's leg. Xande's countered that really nicely by whizzering it and then jacking up pretty hard. And the process of doing that has meant that he's effectively past Dean's guard right now. So he's past Dean's guard. You can see Dean is now starting to sneak that left knee in. He's going to start to shift his right knee in as well to try and re-establish half guard because he's in a pretty bad spot. And Xande reads this situation beautifully. And here he goes, this massive step. And he actually sits himself directly into mount, which is just smooth as butter. Okay. Now they're going to shuffle a second. What you can actually see here is Dean's left arm is out the back door, and he's about to use that to clear his head out the back. So Xande's focusing on this top arm up here, and as he's doing that, Dean is just about to jack himself out the back door, and there he goes. So he's out the back door now. So what I mean by that is his head and this left arm are both outside of Xande's legs. So the only thing keeping Dean inside of Xande's control right now is this right arm. And you can see that Xande's starting to establish a 2-on-1 control over that right arm. I'll let that play a tiny little bit. So here he goes, setting up his 2-on-1 control. And so this is really the only way he can hold the position at this point. Like he's got weight onto Dean's chest, but he's obviously committed his weight onto Dean at the same time, and he sets up this figure 4 position. Now what he does here is really, really smooth. He starts to drop off to his left side, and he's going to pull Dean up towards him, and he's starting to get into this belly down armbar position. Okay, so what you can see here is he's still got his 2-on-1, and he's starting to move this blurry right leg over the top. So you can now see that all 4 of his limbs are focused up on Dean's one arm. The referee's going to get in the way here for a second, which is not very useful to us. Get out of the way, ref. Get my pointer out of his bum. Okay, so you can see here, there's a really nice clear shot of it. Xande has a Kimura or a figure 4 grip here on Dean's hand. This is Dean's own hand reaching inside his thigh, keeping his hand from getting isolated out. You can see both of Xande's feet here trying to wrap the top of Dean's arm. And one thing that Dean is doing that is really significant is you can see he's shifting his weight away. So what Xande is now trying to do is actually get control of those legs of Dean so that he can throw the legs over the top and get him into like an armbar from mount position. So Dean on his back and Xande sat up on his bum so he can finish the armbar in that nice dominant top position. So I'm just going to go run this through probably real time. Dean is just an absolute cold-hearted bastard with ice in his veins. And so he's just doing some crazy stuff here, pretending that he doesn't have one of the best jiu-jitsu players of all time hanging on his arm. But he's safe because his weight is shifted away. So Xande's under that leg, but Dean's got his weight shifted so far off that Xande can't actually get onto that leg and invert him. And so, okay, this is an important point. Xande is now switching himself to the other side to try and get a better angle. So he's giving up that dominant position that you'd be able to sort of sweep from. And what he's now doing is switching the other side. And as he's doing that, Dean is switching his weight to negate that position as well. So you can see Dean's really focused on the locked himself up here. Xande's got his arms controlled. And you can see, what you'll see is as Xande tries to work his way back into that belly down armbar position with his head facing back towards Dean's feet, Dean's going to shift his weight again and move his base around. Pardon me. Just let Dean have a bit of a think. So Xande's trying to fight the hands there a little bit. He's got a bit more space at this point. Not really anything doing. But this is a really dangerous position for Dean to be in. And also for Xande, right? So, okay, you can see now Xande's now bumped in with the hips again. And he's shifting back out. And what you'll see is Dean moves his weight almost immediately. So this is an important point without trying to get too far into the detail. So you can see here, again, this stupid clock, Xande is now working for Dean's ankles. And what he's trying to do is get a grab of that ankle and he's trying to pull it over his head, which will invert Dean over the top and put him into this kind of belly down, into this armbar finishing position. So you can see Dean starts to move his feet and he widens his base right out and settles himself down really low. And he's doing that to stop himself from getting flipped. So you see his left hand's posting for base and he's got himself settled in nice and easily there. Okay. Now this next part is the thing about this sequence that I really like. So now Xande knows that he can't go for that position again. So now he's actually going to sweep the other way and hopefully someone else appreciating how amazing that is. So that reversal, so I'll just play it backwards for you again. That reversal is, the exact opposite of everything that Xande is trying to go for in this sequence. So he inverts up onto his head, flips himself around, uses that momentum, bumps Dean down onto his butt, which he's able to do because Dean has shifted his weight to defend the first attack. And as he goes, see this right hand scoops the leg underneath, it's directly behind that name, scoops the leg, and then he ends up here in this armbar position. It is smooth as butter. Now, the only problem with this armbar position as he's got set here, and you'll see this in a couple of seconds, is he doesn't have the controls the way he wants them. So he's trying to control here with the hand. He's still got control over the arm. Everything's going to switch. But what you can see here is that he's got this leg in nice position, but this left leg of his isn't covering the back of the head. So he doesn't have the position as he needs it. And so now he's going to try and faff around and get the position really solid. And he's going to need it really, really solid because Dean is an absolute master of escaping positions. And so Xande is now taking the time to try and set really good controls in this position. You're going to see he switches his hands over and he's going to start to try and get out. Now, as he's doing that, Dean does an amazing job, backs himself out, and then back up to the feet. So that's a 20-minute match. We've just watched 3 odd minutes of it. And in that time, Dean's had to work really, really hard to not get his arm ripped out of its socket. Now we're going to blast through. There's a bunch more stuff that goes on. There's a bunch more guard passing. Brup. But what I want you to see is that, okay, so this is the second sequence. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or did everything I just covered make sense? You can all just kind of stare at me blankly, I suppose. That's going to work good. Okay, so now we're going to watch the second sequence. So the difference between this first sequence and the second is Xande's gone through that belly down armbar transition on Dean. He's tried it a few times, and he's been able to see what Dean's response to it is each time. The other thing is we're now about 12 minutes deep into the match. So, and these guys have been busy the whole time, a lot of time on their feet, a lot of wrestling. So they're both starting to get a little bit tired. So here we go. You can see Dean, once again, he's trying to work on that single leg and Xande's jacked him up on the underhook again. So Dean's following that exact same sequence he was in last time. Xande's following a similar sequence. Okay, Dean this time gets onto the leg. So you can see he's hit that single leg. Now, so he's trying to come up and finish the single leg. Xande does this really, really nice back step pass. So Ryan Hall calls that a flop. I think it's also a back step. So you can see Xande's just dropped himself down to that hip. So he's getting taken off on the single. So Dean's on the single, about to stand up and finish it. And so Xande turns the angle. You can see he squares, and then he drops himself down to that hip and wraps. And you can see I think there's actually probably a pretty good opportunity to go for something like a wrestler's cradle in that position. Xande doesn't do that, but it's this flop position here. And so it's a bit of a scrambly, weird position. Dean has control of Xande's right leg at this point, but Xande's kind of almost past the guard. So it's one of those, positions that they're trading in. That's not a well-defined position, but both of them have things that they're looking for. So Dean is looking to try and get good control of this leg, try and get under it a little bit more and isolate it out. Xande is looking to try and clear Dean's leg on the opposite side and come through to side control. So they both have really good options to go to from here. It just kind of comes down to who's able to get that option. What you're going to see is Dean focusing on a couple of controls to try and dig an underhook or isolate an arm. You see he's looking for a shoulder crush there. You see Xande's keeping himself really nicely attached, trying to stop himself from getting elevated. He's also got his weight really pressed down off Dean, not letting himself get elevated. Because if Dean could, get underneath him, he's going to isolate a leg, and get to work. Okay, so Xande's also got control of that top leg with that sort of scoop grip going on there, so it's quite dominant. And he's sat himself down quite low, so Dean can't get his other leg in underneath to reestablish like a half guard or something, and his leg's wrapped in the position as well. So it's all a bit, all over the shop. Okay, Xande's trying to reconnect himself here, and we are coming up to this point here. Okay, see how Dean has just connected his hands together to try and probably get a bit more pull on this leg. As he's done that, he's committed that top hand. And so previously it's been used as a frame and it hasn't been sort of committed out from his body, but he's just committed it forward. Can you see, let me go back a tiny bit here. So Xande's working there, looking to control the head. So I'm just playing backwards for a second. So Xande's around the head. You can see Dean's hands committed forward right here. And then Xande senses that or whatever. You see this right hand of his coming straight over the top, deep in the armpit, and absolutely clamps down on that thing. So Xande's got that arm now. He's got Dean's right hand. You can see he's let go. And once again, he sets up his figure four. Okay, so Again, Dean is out the back door. He doesn't have a huge amount of controls or things committed onto Xande. He's wrapped up Zhangji's leg here, but now he's got this leg, this arm isolated once again. All right, what you're going to see this time is a really, really nice sequence from Xande, and it's what he was going for every single time. So Dean at the moment is kind of killing any offense because his legs are wrapping Zhangji's. But what's going to happen in a couple of seconds is Zhangji's going to start to crank on this Kimura. It's going to force Dean into a roll, and you're going to see the full sequence play out. So we'll play it through one time at normal speed. Boom. That is smooth as silk. We're going to jack it back. Let's see if I can do this without causing too much problems. Okay, cool. Yep. So I'm going to go in slow-mo just so you can kind of appreciate what's going on there. Okay, so Xande starts to crank on the Kimura. Dean's opening his legs up now, and you can see Xande clears his right leg out of the way. And as he does that, now he's able to lift Dean. So he's got the force to lift. Dean has to roll with that, otherwise his shoulder's going to get broken. He rolls. Now he's looking to come to his knees to not let Xande finish the sweep. So he's trying to maintain top position. As he does that, you can see that there's a heap of space underneath. And now Xande's pulling his right knee in underneath Dean's chest, and his left foot is going to go over the top. Okay, so there goes his left leg over the head, and you can see he rotates at the same time, and bam, finishes in that belly down position. That right leg, sorry, is just about to go in, and it's posted onto Dean's hip. Okay, he's on Dean's hip now, and so he's in that belly down position that he was looking for last time.
That is really nice.
Yeah, smooth as butter.
T Kimura to that, wow.
Okay, so now what you're going to see is Xande is going to try and do that first sweep that was successful last time, right? So he's swinging himself, his hips back towards Dean's feet in an effort to try and reverse Dean, let's call it like bum over or head over bum. Dean resists that. He's doing the right thing now because that's worked on him one time before. Xande reverses back, and can you see as he does that, he stretches Dean out, and now both of Dean's ankles over here are within Xande's reach. Grabs an ankle, flips him over, boom. Okay, so this is the position that Xande's been looking for the entire time. That was the sequence I wanted you all to see. I'm just going to let this last little bit play through because this is an absolute highlight all time of jiu-jitsu. So enjoy yourselves. So Dean's all locked up. Xande's just working to free that hand. He's got really good control. You can see he's all tightened up with his ankles controlling, and he really just needs to free the left hand that's stopping him from armbarring Dean. Switches, keeps control of the legs, pops, and he straightens the arm out. Now that arm is straight as a die. So Dean now works to free his head, frees it out the second way, comes out, and looks to come up onto a single. And just purely out of the fact that was ridiculous, both men stop and shake hands because that is insane. The crowd at this point in time is going absolutely mental. Okay, so those are the two sequences I wanted you to see. I'm just going to stop sharing screen for a second. Where am I? Bam. Click exit full screen mode. I don't know if that's me, is it? Get rid of this. Okay, I don't know how to make that look any different. But there we go. That was
back.
It.
Everything looks fine, Tristan.
Oh, does it? Perfect. Look at me. Nailed it. Okay, so those were the sequences. You guys can unmute yourselves and unmute your cameras or whatever else. I really just wanted to show you the two sequences. The first one where both men are pretty fresh. Xande looks to go for that reversal and looks to finish the armbar and just isn't able to make it work, but you can kind of see the nuance to the system he's trying to work. And the second time it goes absolutely seamlessly, and it's just a beautiful execution. And then Dean Lister is just a complete monster and it escapes that armbar. Questions?